What if I told you that the biggest, most life-altering changes you can make actually come from the smallest actions you take? It sounds kind of backwards, right? Well, that's the powerful idea behind James Clear's game-changing book, Atomic Habits. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the invisible forces that shape our lives and see how tiny, almost unnoticeable shifts can lead to absolutely remarkable results.
You've been there, right? We all have. You get this huge burst of motivation. You're going to work out every single day. You're going to read a book a week. You're finally going to learn that new language. But then, after a few weeks, maybe even a few days, that fire just fizzles out, and you're left feeling frustrated, and you're right back where you started. You put in all this effort. You're consistent for a little while, but it feels like you're just spinning your wheels, constantly fighting against the pull of your old routines. So why is it so incredibly hard? Well, James Clear has an answer that might surprise you. This right here, this is the heart of the entire book. Clear's point is that the problem isn't you. It's not that you lack motivation or willpower. The problem is your system. I mean, think about it. Winners and losers in any field, they often have the exact same goals. The real difference maker is the system they follow day in and day out. So let's start by tearing down a huge myth, the idea that goals are everything. It turns out focusing too much on the finish line can actually set you up for failure. This brings us to a really cool idea that Clear calls the plateau of latent potential.
Okay, imagine you have an ice cube, and it's in a room that's 25 degrees. You slowly start raising the temperature, 26, 27, 28 degrees, and you look at the ice cube, and nothing's happening. It's still a solid block of ice. You're putting in all this work, but you see zero results. Then you hit 32 degrees, and bam! It finally starts to melt. Now that breakthrough wasn't sudden at all, was it? It was the result of all that work that came before. The tragedy is, most of us quit at 31 degrees, right before the magic happens, because we're stuck in what Clear calls this valley of disappointment, where all our progress is happening invisibly, just under the surface.
So if goals aren't the real answer, then what is? Well, James Clear says that true, lasting change doesn't start with what you're doing. It starts with who you believe you are. It's all about shifting your identity. And think about it like this. Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Do you put on your running shoes, even for just a minute? That's one vote for, I am a runner. Do you write one single sentence? That's a vote for, I am a writer. These tiny, consistent actions build up evidence for your new identity, and over time, it starts to feel real. And here's what that looks like in the real world. On the left, you've got someone who's trying to quit. See, they still see themselves as a smoker who's fighting an urge. But on the right, you have someone whose identity has shifted. They're a non-smoker. A cigarette just isn't part of their world. It's not a struggle. It's just who they are. Now that is the power of changing your identity first. Okay, so how do we actually build this new identity? Well, this is where it gets really practical. James Clear gives us a simple but incredibly powerful 4-step framework for designing the habits that will literally shape who you become. These are the 4 laws. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. And this isn't just some random list. These 4 laws map perfectly onto the habit loop that's already wired into our brains. You know, the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. By taking control of each step, you can stop fighting yourself and start designing your own behavior.
And what's so brilliant about this system is that it works in reverse, too. If you want to break a bad habit, you just flip the laws. So say you want to stop mindlessly scrolling on your phone, you make the app invisible by hiding it in a folder. You make it unattractive by thinking about how it just kills your focus. You make it difficult by logging out every single time you use it. And you make it unsatisfying by maybe tracking all the time you've wasted. It's a complete toolkit for changing your behavior from the ground up.
All right, so how do you actually apply these laws in your real everyday life? Let's zoom in on 2 incredibly powerful and simple techniques from the book that you can literally start using the second this is over. First up is habit stacking. You know, a lot of us think we lack motivation, but what we really lack is just clarity. Habit stacking fixes that. You simply piggyback a new habit you want to build onto one you already do without even thinking. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. The coffee is your anchor. It's the solid, reliable cue that's already part of your day. It's so simple, it's genius. And then there's maybe my favorite technique, the 2-minute rule. The idea here is just unbelievably simple. When you start any new habit, it has to take less than 2 minutes to do. So read before bed becomes read 1 page. Do yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Run 3 miles becomes put on my running shoes. Because look, this isn't about achieving the big goal on day 1.
It's about establishing the habit and reinforcing your identity as the kind of person who does that thing. I mean, anybody can put on their shoes. Anyone can read one single page. The real goal is to master the art of just showing up, because a habit has to be established before it can ever be improved.
And all of this leads to a really freeing idea. We always think that successful people just have this superhuman willpower. But what if that's not the secret at all? What if they're not even fighting temptation in the first place?
The big secret is that self-control is a short-term solution, but designing your environment is a long-term one. Trying to rely on willpower is like trying to swim upstream against a powerful current all day long. It's just exhausting. The smarter approach is to redesign your surroundings so the current actually flows with you. So instead of trying to resist the cookies on the kitchen counter, just don't have cookies in the house. You want to make your good habits the path of least resistance. Your environment is this invisible hand that's shaping your behavior whether you realize it or not.
This quote from Clear just says it all, doesn't it? You don't need more discipline. You need a better designed life. It is always easier to avoid temptation than it is to resist it. By shaping your environment, you can make good habits feel almost inevitable and bad habits feel nearly impossible. So in the end, it really all comes down to this simple idea. Every tiny action you take, every single choice, is a vote for the person you are becoming. It's not about some grand, heroic act of willpower once a year. It's about the small, seemingly insignificant choices you make every single day. So the only real question left is, who are you voting to become today?